Boston College as he must now quarantine for 10 days per the ACC's medical advisory group. His status for next weekend's game versus number 4 Notre Dame, TBD. Meanwhile, the first college football playoff rankings will be released on November 17th, and according to Heather Dinich, the selection committee will consider availability of all players. Now, Trevor posted this on social media following his diagnosis, saying, quote, "I have tested positive for COVID-19 and my symptoms have been relatively mild while I'm following the protocol from Clemson in the ACC. The only thing that hurts is missing an opportunity to be with my teammates this weekend and play the game I love. I hate but I can't be there, but I will be watching from isolation and pulling for our guys while I wait for the opportunity to rejoin the team. God bless and go Tigers." All right, good friend Tim Tebow joining us now. Tim, hope you're doing well. Question, how do you react initially to this diagnosis of Trevor Lawrence having COVID-19?
Well, I think it's huge for so many reasons. One, because he's one of the best players, best people in college football. So you feel bad for him that he's missing a game he's worked so hard for, and also probably being the last year of his college career at Clemson. But I think if you look at as a whole for Clemson, I think they can get by Boston College. And I even think next week in their biggest game of the year, even without Trevor, if he can't get back and play, they still have a good chance to win because their backup DJ, and I won't even try to pronounce his last name, he's a 5-star freak that's a baller, and already this year he's shown a lot of poise. And you got to remember, their defense is lights out getting to the quarterback with Brent Venables. So if there was a time where Trevor could not be there for his team, I think this could be a time, because I also think the playoff committee will look at it and say it's one of the best players, if not the best player in the biggest game. He's not there, so Clemson could also get slack if Notre Dame was able to upset without Trevor.
What the hell does it say about Notre Dame if you're saying that they can be beat by Clemson with the backup quarterback?
Stephen A., I think most people would get beat by Clemson with the backup quarterback. I think there's only a handful of teams that would have a chance to beat Clemson with their backup.
I mean, Tua was the backup in Bama. Sometimes the backup of these programs is better than the starter.
Well, we certainly ain't going to say that when it comes to him against Trevor Lawrence, are we? We going to say that now?
Well, let me ask you about the Heisman race. How does this affect things, Tim?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you look at Justin Fields and his performance last week, just absolutely balling in every part of the game, throwing, running, leadership, toughness, everything, he's going to play less games. Unless Trevor doesn't play, we know he's not going to play this week. If he doesn't play another week, I think it gives Justin a little bit more of a chance to catch up in stats. Not necessarily in performance. I think Justin has shown he's going to perform, but I think all the voters at the end of the year, it's just easy to kind of go to default mode to say, oh, Trevor has 40 touchdowns, Justin Fields has 30, and they don't necessarily take the amount of games into play. But I think this does give Justin a little bit more of a chance to kind of get into that race with some of the other guys. Mac Jones from Alabama, who's been putting up crazy stats. So I think this gives him just a little bit more of opportunity. But I want Trevor to get back and to be able to play. He's too good of a player. He's too good of a kid. And, I want to see him make the most of this opportunity.
Tim, give us a perspective on how serious we should take this college football season in light of all the hiccups that have taken place. Season starting late, games being pushed back into December, COVID-19 positive tests, et cetera, et cetera. Some people say good. It's good for us. It's good for the entertainment aspect. Good for these guys that have aspirations to go pro, and et cetera, to get out on the field and go out there and perform. But how serious should we take the competition aspect of all of this, considering so many obstacles that have been thrown in these guys' direction?
Well, there has been a lot of obstacles. There has been a lot of change, but I'm going to take it extremely serious because I know how much it means to every single one of these kids. And so I'm going to evaluate it with everything I have to support every one of them, because you know what? There has been a lot of challenges, but I have seen hundreds and hundreds of college kids that have adapted, that have grown, that have learned, that have changed, that have figured out right ways to be able to do things, and that are trying to be their brother's keeper and support one another. And yes, we have had some setbacks with some positive cases, but man, I've been able to talk to teams and see teams that are doing everything they can, and these kids are doing so much. So many of them are doing the right things to be able to live out their dreams. So you know what? I'm going to take it extremely serious, and yes, there's going to be some setbacks, but you know what? These kids they've earned it, and they've worked so extremely hard, and so for their sake, I'm going to take it extremely seriously.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Tim. I think this is a big deal for all of the players out there on the field this season. But we thank you so much for your time. We Unfortunately, I have to get to the next segment, but always appreciate you.
Sounds good. Nice turtleneck, Stephen A.
I know.
All right. All right, well, from one legend, we've got another one coming right up. Hall of Famer Rod Woodson joining us to talk all things Steelers, Ravens, and
how in the hell could you possibly say in this scenario that more pressure is on Mike McCarthy than it is on Carson Wentz?
We're going to have to look at the Cowboys and say that team didn't quit. They're still playing. And the Eagles are a divisional rival. They can't just get rolled like they're not trying.
all right, guys, get excited. Sunday prime time football. It is going to be Carson Wentz versus Ben DiNucci. Looking to claim the top spot in the NFC.
Back in '84.
I've never heard of a quarterback.
I love that.
Back in '84.
I mean, I thought Orlovsky was bad enough. The name Orlovsky at the quarterback position, and I love Dan. But a quarterback, if my quarterback's name is Orlovsky, I'm worried. That's just me.
Depends if he can play or not.
That's just me.
All right, well, we just heard everything that was said yesterday. Max, you're really hard on Carson Wentz, but yesterday you said there is more pressure on Mike McCarthy than Carson Wentz. So 24 hours later, Stephen A., we gave him the time.
Yeah, because that was a ridiculous take on this part. I want to see if he's changed his mind.
You changed your mind?
Not at all. Look, the fact of the matter is I'm really hard on Carson Wentz. I'm the only one. There are two people hard on Carson Wentz, me and Howie Roseman in the Eagles front office.
Maybe his mother, too.
That's it. Like, Roseman looked at Wentz at the end of last year and said,
ouch.
Well, you know,
He
your
said
moms
maybe
are always...
his mama.
well, I mean,
Mom's always hard on his son.
Yeah.
she's saying that, in order to become a professional athlete, you need high standards. There you go.
There you go.
The point is, the Eagles front office looked at Carson Wentz at the end of last year and they said, we got to draft a quarterback. We have to draft a quarterback in the second round. I don't want to hear anyone tell me any nonsense about they need depth at the position. There are veterans floating around that can give you depth. Fitzgerald is, Ryan Fitzpatrick is always available, right? Someone like that is always available. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about, well, you draft a backup quarterback when you don't need one. You just gave a franchise contract, an elite contract to a 27-year-old quarterback. What do you mean? You're years away from needing to draft his replacement. But they drafted a quarterback in the second round when the best player available, the wideout they needed, C.D. Lamb, they could have packaged that pick and moved up and taken him. They decided not to. So the front office sees more soberly what's going on than anyone else, apparently, but me. Carson Wentz is good for one amazing Patrick Mahomes-level throw a game, 3 or 4 good ones, and the rest are questionable at best. Now, Stephen A., Mike McCarthy, everyone's on him. Everyone's on McCarthy, right? The pressure, if Carson Wentz goes out and does what he normally does, by the way, I'm going to take him in DraftKings, I think, this week. Why not? He's playing the Cowboys defense, right? Mm-hmm. If he loses, or it's not even loses. I don't think that the Eagles are going to lose. But if he doesn't look good, there'll be excuses. Look at all the drop passes. Look at all the injuries. The Cowboys were motivated. They played for whatever it is. All I hear week in and week out about Wentz are excuses for his play, which is not bad. It's middle of the pack quarterback play for an elite talent who's being paid like an elite talent. Mike McCarthy, everyone's on him. They're calling for his job. And you, Stephen A., you of all people, you said, fire him now. You don't even want to wait till the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And you know why you said that? The same reason people were talking about Brian Flores beginning of last year. Because the Dolphins looked like they quit. We were wrong. Brian Flores can coach. Because by the end of the year, they beat the Patriots. And a must-have game for the Patriots, right? But early on, we were saying, is this the worst team ever? The team looks like it quit. And that's what we're saying about the Cowboys now. Mm-hmm. And if McCarthy, you don't have to win, but if he doesn't get them playing like it looks like they want to win, he's in trouble. Well, Stephen A. Smith will come out here and say, get rid of him this week.
First of all, you're wrong. You're wrong in this respect. First of all, you brought up Brian Flores. You can't compare the two situations. Chris Greer, an African-American GM running the Miami Dolphins. Clearly, they were retooling. Obviously, they were accumulating draft picks and unloading players. So when we talked about players that quit, we also knew that the players that they had were relative scrubs compared to the kind of guys that they would accumulate. They were in complete rebuilding mode. They weren't signing dudes to contract. They were unloading contracts. Jerry Jones signing dudes. So the two situations don't compare. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to say this again. If Carson Wentz loses a game to these Dallas Cowboys, it'll be a disaster. Let me remind everybody, Dallas Cowboys, dead last in points allowed, dead last in rushing yards allowed. One of the top 5 worst teams defense in yards allowed, period. No secondary, barely a pass rush for crying out loud. Linebackers have been injured and debilitated. Their offense, first of all, Dak Prescott is gone. The offensive line, 4 or 5 dudes are subs because their starting 5 is out. You've got all of that going on. You got a head coach, all right, that isn't resonating with the players. You got a defensive coordinator that's hiding in press conferences getting Tabasco sauce in his eye. You know what I'm saying? What the hell?
Hold on, they're going to ask me a question.
Oh, my goodness. I need a break. 3 minutes, okay? You got an owner, GM, and president in Jerry Jones cussing out radio hosts, all right?
Man.
And you have a quarterback who's a third stringer named Ben DiNucci, okay? And you're Carson Wentz, and you go out and lose to that? I assure you,